for everybody for joining us. Hey, we're excited that you're all here today. We're sorry about the technical difficulties, but we've got a great little trivia for you today. And we're going to have this to be an interactive session. We're going to talk a little bit more about the habits of health and what you can do to really improve your knowledge. And we're going to test your knowledge today. Dr. A has got some questions we put together to just see where everybody is at in terms of their understanding of the habits of health. Many of you are already familiar with the habits of health. You're very familiar with our system. For those of you that are not aware of what's going on with our system, Dr. Anderson, we'd love for you just to give everybody just a quick little overview of this amazing habits of health system that you've created. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, David, and thanks everybody for putting up. You know, the world has gone virtual, and so we're maxing out on a lot of the facilities that we use to communicate the message of health around the world. So with that, yeah, the Habits Health Transformational System is evolved from a book I wrote about 13 years ago in a workbook, and it's really a system to help people change their health. Using you know, there's a nice app here on your phone. There's a life book, which is an interactive journal where you'll write the next year, creating your new story. And then there's the reference book, and all these things are put together to be compatible along with the habitsofhealth.com site, which anybody listening to this can go to and get lots of useful information. And we found this very timely, and what I've been doing over the last couple of weeks is really, since a lot of people are at home, but they want to work on their health, we want to give them some tools and some ideas and some things they can get, you know, in front of them virtually, where we're communicating, connecting mentally, but physically distancing ourselves at a time like this. So, David, excited about doing this little fun trivia, kind of this little quiz today, just to kind of see where people are and put them in position to take better control of both their health and their life.
Fantastic. Well, we're excited to get a chance to challenge you. We're going to challenge you on each one of the 6 macro habits inside of Dr. A's Habits of Health system. And so are you ready to play the game? If you're ready, make sure that you have the chat window open, because we're going to be asking you to put answers in the chat. We have some multiple choice questions, we've got some open-ended questions, and we've got some true and false questions. So have the chat feature opened up. If you're not sure how to use that on this technology, make sure that you tap your screen and click on participants. If you're using a mobile device, you should be able to find the chat feature in the toolbar of the Zoom technology. So let's go ahead and just kick things off and just start with the first habit of healthy weight management. And so the question is, what is the healthy body mass index range for your height? Do you know the answer to that question? If you do, put it in the chat message. It should be maybe a range of a couple of numbers. And if you're aware of what that is, go ahead and put that in. Now, Dr. A, maybe while people are commenting on that topic, body mass index is just one form of measurement of what a person's weight should be. Can you give a little bit more understanding of why you referenced the body mass index?
Yeah, no, it's great. And, you know, it gets criticized because it's not perfect, because it doesn't give you all the information, but it's so easy. We're going to show a chart in a minute so people, if they don't know how to do it, can do it. But before we do that, knowing that all you need to know is your height and your weight, and it actually puts you in a category which shows what your relative risk is for developing disease, depending on what your BMI is. Now, when we add waist circumference to that, it becomes a very, very important measure. So you'll want to do that as well, and you can go into the Habits Health system, into the weight management areas to evaluate that. But it's a great indicator because you can do it in about 3 seconds. There's even online, we have that on habitshealth.com site, where you can actually go and just click in your numbers and it'll calculate it for you. But yeah, we want to get you possibly below 25 if we can do that. So as you look for your number there, 25 below, 24.9 technically is the range where you move into the healthy weight area. As you go up, you can see the coloration is that below 25, you're at ideal body weight. In fact, as we move into ultra health, we talk about maybe even going down a little bit lower. But as you go down lower, you're actually adding more lean muscle mass, and you're decreasing the amount of fat. And so we want to have a healthy amount of muscle, especially as we get older, because it helps helps us lower the risk of disease. As you can see, as you go up into the orange and then the basically the yellow, the orange, and that should be red. It's kind of decolorized here. But you can see your risk for cardiovascular disease, for cancers, for diabetes, for stroke, for heart attack, all those things go up. So it's really important number, but it does need to be put along with waist circumference to really give you great value, because we have this thing where someone may have a normal BMI, but may have mostly fat, which is not as heavy as muscle, and they may have a big belly. And visceral fat, the fat around your organs, around your belly, are the ones that cause the problems with diabetes and all the other things we talked about, David.
Great. Well, I don't know, did you get yours right? Hopefully everybody got a chance to understand a little bit more about what the good range is for them. And then, deciding what's a good weight for you beyond that, just as what Dr. A had talked about. So let's go to the next question.
They say they can't see me, David.
Can't see you. Okay. We'll take it off.
Not that I care.
Well, we're having wonderful.
Shirley says we can see me. Okay, they can't. Just somebody can't see me.
All right,
we're good. All right.
We're the better looking one of the two here, so I'm going to try to get you seen.
All right, let's do it.
All right, so the next one was, it's still in the category of habits of healthy weight management, which 72% of Americans are overweight or obese, and some just maybe don't have the healthiest BMI, but still want to take off a few pounds. So this is a good question to answer. Do you know how many calories you are consuming every day? Now, Dr. A, I know that you're not big on counting calories, but why is it important for people to have a general understanding of how many calories they're consuming versus how many calories they're burning?
Yeah, well, weight management is all about understanding two parameters. One is the calories, which are the amount of energy you're putting in your body, and the second is the type of energy you're putting in your body. So there's been lots of studies saying the calorie isn't a calorie isn't a calorie, but a calorie is a calorie, and there's calories that turn on your hormonal systems to help you, and those that actually modify and put you in a fat storage state. So yeah, the calories are important because if you're using high glycemic, ultra refined processed food, sugars, unhealthy fats, you're basically turning on insulin, and insulin, when it's modulated, causes fat storage. So it's important for both, and within a range, especially as you reach a healthy weight and you start into transition, as you adapt to that change, because as you lose weight, you do lose some body mass, so your full energy intake will go down, that you can take and stay at the healthy weight will go down unless you add the other components. If we're learning how to eat healthy, if we're now installing, we're going to ask you some questions on healthy motion, starting to add exercise, all those things offset that metabolic loss that you get as you lose weight. And that's why the Habit Self Transformational System is 6 macro habits. We don't just look at one, because one by itself basically will create imbalances in the other. So we want to look at all of them and be working on. So as we work on your weight management, we're going to really specifically look at both your healthy motion as well as your healthy sleep and energy management, because those are critical, along with sleep. Sleep is so important because it actually affects your hormones, your cortisol levels, your ability for leptin to be effective and have you a feeling of hunger. So all these things interrelate with each other, but we do it in little baby steps. So you'll want to know in general, and what I do, rather than having people be obsessed with calories, that's why we use a plate system. We know a 9-inch plate system, you divide half into fruits and vegetables, a quarter into your healthy grains or starches, and then a quarter into your healthy protein source. We know within that you're managing yourself in a way, and then you can make the small adjustments as you go throughout your day, David.
Yeah. Well, I know there's a lot of people that are commenting about the number of calories they're consuming, and the calories seem awfully low because they're following the 5-in-1 plan. Without getting into a lot of detail, could you just maybe share with people who are watching that don't necessarily understand the science behind the 5-in-1 plan and why people can take in less calories and actually have better quality nutrition?
Yeah. Well, it has to do, again, with modulating your hormones. There's a very specific system your body uses that's evolved over, tens of thousands of years that balances your energy. And it's designed to let you know when you're full. It's designed to let you know when you're hungry, when you need to go out and be more active. All those things are built into our rhythms. Unfortunately, what happens is when we eat ultra-processed food in the modern world, it stimulates insulin because you get very high blood sugars, which stimulates insulin. And what you actually do, leptin is the key parameter that has you sense fullness. And you start building leptin resistance as you have insulin resistance. And so what ends up happening is that if you're not reaching a healthy weight first and doing it in an effective way, you basically may be cannibalizing your muscles. So what we do is we use the 5-in-1 as a specific way to give you 6 meals a day, balanced nutrition. We lower the total calories, but we give you enhanced protein and balanced carbohydrate along with low glycemic and the vitamins and minerals, so that as you're eating daily, you're learning how to eat healthy with your lean and green, where you're learning to take a lean piece of protein along with a healthy salad or healthy vegetables. And then what we do is we tap into your visceral adiposity, that belly I talk about, that muffin top, the thing in the middle that we know isn't healthy for us. And what preferentially the body does is it burns that energy as a source, but relatively protects the muscle mass. So what we can do is start you in a positive, actually it's a negative energy balance, but you're using your internal energy source to help start burning that as a fat. So what happens with that is as you start losing weight, where the teachable moments there, you're feeling better, have more energy, you're more likely to get active and want to be active. And then we start you on a movement program, eventually an exercise program. We help you learn to sleep better. We teach you how to help minimizing your stress so that your hormonal balance as well as your psychological state is one that allows you to move forward. And then the last part is we modify your surroundings, because we know this. We know that your willpower is bought at the grocery store, not when you have the Haagen-Dazs ice cream sitting in the freezer at 11 o'clock at night. So it's really important to approach all these in a systematic but easy fashion, David.
That's good. Well, let's jump to a true and false question and move into the habit, macro habit of healthy eating. So the question is, true or false, to lose 1 pound of fat per week, you must burn 2,500 calories more than you consume. True or false? Go ahead and comment and put your answer inside of the chat. And we'd love to see how everybody will do on this question. So in terms of habits of healthy eating, Dr. A, I know that there's a lot of questions around, can a man do the same program or same meal plan as a female? Anything that you could just share on that before we start revealing some of the answers?
Yeah, it's the answer is yes, within reason. That if a man that's very, very large, big, and musculature, has a lot of musculature, if he's working a high energy job like working on a jackhammer or lifting concrete blocks or something, probably will need to add another meal or two. But within that range, most of us, we can use the 5 and 1, because what happens is the body adjusts. The intelligence within the body will adjust and use the calories that are necessary to maintain the energy requirements of the body. So even though a man can be much bigger than a woman, bottom line is they can both use the same system. Now, there is basically one advantage that men have is what I talked about. They do have more muscle, so they're going to lose more weight. They're going to lose weight quicker, but in percent to their total weight, basically it's very similar to a woman. So, don't be frustrated if you're doing this with your significant other and he's losing more weight, because it'll eventually equilibrate. But in the beginning, it's really important to understand that within a range, we've made this so easy that all you have to do is focus on, you get out your app. It reminds you every 3 hours. It reminds me every 3 hours to eat. And then I move forward, grab a fueling, and then basically move on and do what I'm doing throughout the day. So we make it so easy. Those fuelings take a minute to prepare. This morning, I made a brownie when I got up, and basically it gives you just the right amount of energy. Now, with this question, David, obviously the misnomer here and why it's false is that it's 3,500 calories. And that's an important number, because the average person that's 30 pounds overweight, in other words, has a BMI of 30, which is just the borderline of being considered to be obese, has about 145,000 extra calories in their body. Imagine if 3,500 calories, a pound is 3,500 calories, you have 145,000. Even if you ran a marathon, so that's why people that try to do it with exercise alone are not successful for the most part, because if you ran a marathon, it's 2,600 calories. You'd have to lose that weight, you'd have to run a marathon every weekend for a year if you did it simply by trying to do it with exercise. And the other part for women, they have this phenomenon called compensation. And so what happens especially when a woman exercises, they basically get very hungry. And so they end up going to Starbucks or whatever and having a filled latte with sugar or something, and they've defeated all their workout, and their energy is actually, their equation is equal, not that they've done what they need to. So we always focus first on the energy side of the equation, because eating 5 and 1 puts you in the right mindset. And then we work on the energy outside as you become healthier, have less weight, so you're not pounding your knees. We put you in a much more logical position to reach long-term. Our program and what we do is about sustainability. It's not about the fat of the week or the month. It's about teaching you what you need so that you now have the habits for long-term success.
Great. Our next question in the habits of healthy eating category is: the fastest way to lose weight is to eat how many meals and snacks per day? Go ahead and put your answer to that question in the chat message. Now, this might be a point of conversation, Dr. A, because maybe there's not one fastest way, but you have done some research that has uncovered some clinical studies that have been done that have proven that eating more frequently throughout the day is a great way to stay satisfied and to lose weight. Do you want to share a little bit about that background and why you think that that's the best strategy?
Well, it's the way we're designed. I always like to go back 10,000 years to our teleological design points. You know, we were designed over millions of years to be a certain way. And if we look at our genetics, they've changed less than 0.01% in the last 10,000 years. So if we look at how we're designed and we can feel our body and the way we're designed, we're more likely to be successful. So eating every 3 hours, we were nomadic. We basically were adaptable. We were able to move forward into places and graze. And because of that, we ate smaller amounts most of the day. Now, occasionally we'd knock down a mammoth, a woolly mammoth or something and have a huge, huge feast. But as a whole, we ate sparsely and we ate all day long. So here's the thing. You know, people say, well, eating, you know, every 3 hours, you can actually gain weight if you're eating too much. Well, yeah, that's true. If you're eating 6 huge meals a day, you're going to gain weight because you're not paying attention to calories. But what we do is we use sustainable foods that you can you're grazing on, right? You're having smaller amounts and with maybe a balanced lean and green, maybe once or twice a day once you reach your healthy weight. But with that, we bring the portion size down so now that it fits better for the body. And we've just had such amazing success because people, you know, traditionally what people do is they eat a really little breakfast, starve themselves all day, and then come home and gouge themselves with a huge meal. And that's just not healthy. And so even if you look at some of the work done on intermittent fasting, what they're in essence doing is they're doing what we're doing, but they're actually doing it all in one part of the day, David. And that's not sustainable. You know, people aren't going to stop eating and not eat every other day, or stop eating at 3 o'clock when the most social gathering time is in the evening with their family and with their friends. So we're building sustainable ways, have the same parameters. If you look using the 5 and 1 and you start losing weight and you look at the intermittent fasting, basically the parameters are very same what happens to the improvements in your body, because what we're doing is we're actually lowering our calories. But in our case, rather than putting you in an all or none, we're giving you smaller increments of healthy things that you can do throughout the day. And our fuelings give you a great opportunity. So when you're busy in the hectic world we're in, bottom line is you're grabbing a fueling, which is a healthy fueling for your body, which gives you the right amount of calories, the right amount of protein, the right amount of complex carbohydrates, the right amount of vitamins and minerals. And because it's low glycemic, it turns off your insulin pump. So you're not having these wide fluctuations in your blood sugar, which cause you to start craving. Cravings come from these wide fluctuations. And what's great about our 5 and 1, within a few days, people most people say, wow, my cravings have gone away.
Yeah, that's so good. We're going to go in rapid fire here because we're getting a little bit behind schedule, but this next question is going to challenge you to write out 5 or more answers. We're going to try to see if you can write out 5 or more answers, separate them with a comma. Don't hit the return because then they'll be split up and you'll have a harder time keeping track of your answers. But the question is how many healthy, low carb, 100 to 200 calorie snacks can you list in 15 seconds? So I'll start the timer now. How many can you actually name in writing in 15 seconds? Halfway done? All right. So we've got a whole bunch of ideas here in the chat message, most of them fruits and vegetables. But Dr. A, you know, there's a significant challenge for people that want to try to make healthy choices and plan and purchase and portion size out the right amount of food to get the right amount of calories. Talk a little bit about calorie creeping and why it's so challenging.
Yeah, in the Life book, I actually introduced a new phenomenon I hadn't talked about previously, and that is basically dealing with ultra processed food. You know, what we know now is that ultra processed food is so granular, it's so refined that it actually creates addictions and susceptibility. So we need to know how susceptible. You know, if you think about it, the cocoa bean, just to use an analogy, which is South Americans use as a ritual, they chew that throughout the day, and it's like coffee. You know, it's a very mild stimulus. No one gets addicted, or that I know of, and it's pretty mild on the body. But if you take the cocoa bean and you refine it down, it becomes cocaine. And cocaine, as we know, is a direct stimulant that dramatically creates addiction and cravings, because it hits right into the nucleus accumbens, which is the pleasure center of the brain. Well, when you take sugar in its natural construct, like I saw people picking fruits and stuff, yeah, that type of sugar with fiber and all the water in it is healthy. But when you basically refine the sugar cane or beets down into the white sugar, it's just like cocaine. It becomes a very addictive substance. So for most people, they're eating ultra processed food that has a long shelf life. You basically is high glycemic, and what it does is it causes this really significant addiction. So what we want to do is, if we look at our long-term plan, and I think probably the group that does it the best is kind of the Mediterranean plan, is because we want to use things that are in its natural state. And they add nuts. Nuts are a great source of all kinds of vitamins and minerals and energy and fiber. The thing with nuts is they're very energy dense, and so you can't eat but a handful of them. But staying away from things that trigger your blood sugar to go up, obviously any processed candies, pastas that are not whole wheat, refined Wonder Bread. I don't even know if it even exists anymore, but that's like pure sugar. Rice, white rice, those are all things that you want to avoid, and you want to do things. And the other part is think about the volume. Energy dense versus energy sparse. If something has a lot of water in it, like soups, not brothy soups, not creamy soups, because they have a lot of fat in them, but all these things have lots of water in them, like you can have 3.5 pounds of broccoli versus a Snickers bar and have the same amount of energy. So just think about 3.5 pounds of broccoli, how much that would fill your stomach. So, right? So it's basically part of it, the volume. And this was Dr. Rowley pioneered this area from Pennsylvania, Penn State, or Penn U, one of the two Pennsylvania universities. And basically what we do is we take this and to make it into an easy system, where if you just go to the charts in the Habits of Health or on your app, and you can look, and as long as you stay in the deep green, you're going to be lean. So we specifically address it, but doing it in the fashion makes it easy, David.
Yeah, so good. And our next question is going to be around the area of habits of healthy movement. And the question is, do you know how many calories your body is burning every day? And even people that follow your Habits of Health system and do the complete program, Dr. A, they oftentimes aren't really familiar of the equation that allows them to calculate approximately the number of calories that their body's burning. And sometimes that can lead to calorie creeping and even putting weight back on. So why is it so important to know your total energy expenditure and the calculation that goes with it?
Well, because, it's what gives you kind of the equation to kind of judge what you should do. So let me just put it this way. You don't need the equation as you start on the program. Just get on the 5 and 1. We know we're lowering your calories down below in almost every case, so you will go into a negative energy state and start burning fat for almost everybody. Obviously there's some exceptions, but for most people, that's all you need to do in the beginning. What we want to do is get people started. But as you're losing weight and you're gaining health, before you transition and start moving back to your long-term program, which is basically based on the Dr. A's Habits Health eating system, which is portion control. We're using a plate to create portion control. We're using the color-coded charts to make sure you're eating healthy eating. And then we put you in the place where we transition as we move you to long-term health. And as long as you're paying attention to those parameters, we want to know generally. So what I say for most people, hey, if you're an analytic and you want to go in, the book, as well as the life book, as well as the website, all have where you can take and look at total energy expenditure. But for most, basically 11 calories per pound will give you an idea. And then the other part is the part that we can modify the most as you reach a healthy weight is PAL. PAL is your physical activity level. It's the amount of activity you have. And, for most people have sedentary lifestyles. They're on their computers all the day. We want to use the Habits of Healthy Motion, which you're talking about here, David, to help people start to gain more activity over time. But do it in baby steps so they can build on it. So they don't go out and try to run 3 miles on their first day. Maybe they just walk out to their front yard. We want to get them started. And the way the system works when you fully use it will allow you to do that.
Great. Our next question has to do with, and Dr. Anderson actually said the answer to this, so if you were listening, you probably already have the answer. But the question is, to burn 3,500 calories, the average person would have to run how many miles? Did you catch that number of miles? We're getting the answers to come in. And this is the oftentimes the awakening one, Dr. A, that a lot of people that maybe think that they're going to exercise off the calories finally call mercy and say, you know what, running 33.8 miles, which is the answer for this particular question, that's a lot for 1 pound of fat. Talk a little bit more about the exercising your weight off mentality.
Yeah, well, first of all, exercise is a critical part of optimal health and well-being. It's something you want to do. It's something you want to include. You want to increase your activity. You want to get up, I like to get up to, at least 10,000 steps that are your planned steps a day, besides the ones you get from non-energy expenditure. And we want to add 2 to 3 days, of exercise and eventually high intensity interval training for those that want to become ultra healthy. But for most, basically, exercise is something we do after we get into a fat burning state, and we actually wait and do increasing activity and then move to exercise. Most people aren't doing any of these things sustainably. So when we talk about habits of basically healthy transformation, lifelong transformation, one healthy habit at a time, we talk about modifying. So you're adding things you're going to do from now on. See, it's not about that's why diets don't work by themselves, because they don't create long-term behavioral change. They simply are a short period of time where people restrict what they're doing. What we want to do, David, is actually create things that people start doing and continue doing for the rest of their life. So we start them slow. We start on the energy inside. You're going to lose weight safely and effectively in a very nice fashion. We then add activity, starting with walking and just moving more, getting up from your desk and moving more during the day. Then we add an aggressive walking program, a weight resistance program. And then moving forward, we can get into high cardiovascular health and add high intensity interval training. But we do all these things. It may take you a year before you're there, maybe even 2 years before. If you've never done, if your point of exercise today is to sit on the couch so that thought goes away, well, we got you covered. We're going to start you in baby steps and build that up. But we know that sustainability to maintain a healthy weight, and more importantly, to optimize your health, at more activity and eventually exercise and interval training is a critical part of long-term success.
Great. Well, let's go on to the next macro habit of health, which is habits of healthy sleep and energy management. And the question is, how many hours of sleep does the average person need per night? And this is a multiple choice question. You can choose from the answer of 6 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours, or 9 hours. Go ahead and throw your guess in the chat or the comment section if you're watching this on Facebook, and cast your vote. And then Dr. Anderson, go ahead and share with us, what is the ideal amount of hours? And then maybe talk a little about the quality of sleep, because some people close their eyes for a certain number of hours, but they're not getting that recuperative sleep or those REM cycles that you talk about in your material.
Right. Yeah. So the sweet spot is 8 hours. I mean, that's ideal. Some people don't need quite that much, but 7 to 8 hours is the range, depending male versus female. And there's a little bit of research to support that. But the key part is quality sleep, to your point, David. And part of that is that most people have lost the ritual of sleep. 10,000 years ago, we would get together in the evening after working hard all day to procure food and protect wherever our campsite was, and make the fire and bring in the water and all those things. And we'd sit around the campfire and talk about our day. And then the campfire and the lack of light, we would go to sleep. And we'd sleep until the morning sun came. And as you know, that would be somewhere around 8 to 12 hours, depending on the time of the year. But that was really important because it really set us up. And now today we have no ritual. We don't have that around the campfire. And what we're doing is we're on our computers or iPhones with blue light coming in right to the point we try to go to sleep. So what I've done is I've created actually the twilight hour, where you should designate figuring out 8 hours of sleep ideally. That may change and it may take a little time to reach that. But basically that an hour before you're going to put your head on the pillow, you start that evening twilight hour. And that's an hour where you're shutting down electronics, and I won't go over all the details in it, but it sets you up so that induction, you get a great night's sleep, so that when you wake up in the morning, and how you'll know that, you'll wake up automatically without an alarm. If you need 10 snooze alarms, then you're not getting enough sleep. And you've created a habit where your mind psychologically is not setting up to get up first thing in the morning. The key thing, if I ever am in a situation where I have to have the alarm, I specifically, as soon as that alarm goes off, I never use the snooze alarm. You're setting yourself up to do two things: to procrastinate, which is not a habit of health. And the second thing is you're not getting quality sleep. So I'd rather have you, if you're going to do the snooze alarm, 5 times, then set your alarm for 15 minutes later and then get up, because then you're getting more quality sleep. So sleep is critical. It's not a luxury. Most people think it's a luxury, and actually it's a critical part of long-term optimal. And by the way, directly in managing your weight, if we go how they interact with each other, weight management, when you don't sleep well, you have a tendency to eat, drink too much coffee, have sugary substances and fatty substances, because your body's lacking the level of serotonin replenishment that it needs, which occurs when you sleep naturally.
Yeah, that's fantastic information. We got 2 more questions left. Hopefully everybody's doing good on their score so far, and they're learning a lot. They're becoming awakened, and that's the whole purpose of why we decided to host this event, was to awaken everybody to the habits of health and to really help them to become more integrated as a client or as an individual who wants to get healthier. This next one has to do with the habits of a healthy mind, and this is an open-ended question, and what we'd like to know in 1 sentence, how would you define mindfulness? Dr. A, talk a little bit more about emotional mismanagement and why mindfulness is so important to a person's overall health and well-being journey.
Yeah, no, this is a great question. I'm going to spend a little time on it too, but I want to go just before. I saw in the chat asking about, is it okay to take a little nap? Absolutely. In fact, if you read the chapters on energy management, on sleeping and energy management in the Dr. A's Habits Health, as well as in the Life book, I actually talk about ultradian rhythm. We've all heard basically of at night REM cycles, 90-minute REM cycles, but we actually have 90-minute ultradian cycles during the day, which are part of the same system that basically allows us to manage our energy throughout the day. And yes, there's active rest and there's passive rest, and it's a great thing to go and read, because naps, we even talk about the type of naps. A power nap, a 3 or 4 minute power nap is great. Or if you have more time, then maybe a long-term nap. But in the middle, you get into messing up your ultradian rhythm, and you've all done that. We went to sleep for 15, 20 minutes, you woke up and you felt even more tired. So all that stuff is addressed for you. But yeah, healthy mind is the key parameter of where my work's going, because it's the thing that I realize that most people are really struggling. And clearly right now in our current state of affairs in the world, with this attack from this silent enemy, we basically are really dealing with lots of fear-based thoughts, security-based thoughts, and a lot of it, and knowing that when our mind is unhealthy, when we're in these cognitive emotive loops, what I mean by that, where there's these thought and emotions and they're churning inside of you, they do exactly what we were just talking about. They don't allow you to sleep well. They keep you up worrying. They keep you worrying about the future or worrying about the past, what happened. And it's so important for us to be able to manage that. I'm not saying these are not issues, and certainly we want to be knowledgeable and take actions that give us back control. But the most important thing is to minimize our psychological suffering during periods like this. And that's what the Habits of a Healthy Mind is all about. Stop, Challenge, Choose. I know you're going to put that up here in a minute. But bottom line, it's about understanding that we can control our emotions, that we'll feel those things, we can let them go. And then we can then choose, thinking from the forward part of our brain, our prefrontal cortex, the solutions that help empower us to be successful. So very important. And actually, that's why, David, I start the very first elements of eating every 3 hours, drinking your water, and stop, challenge, and choose are the 3 key things we can help people start to do right now to help them manage and take back some modicum of control. Because that's the thing. People are fearful because they feel like they're out of control and they have nothing they can do. And actually, there's so many things we can do at a time like this. So being mindful is, rather than sleepwalking through life and letting your emotions and your thoughts control you at an unconscious level, instead, you're going to stop and you're going to actually take control of what can I do right now in this current environment to maximize my chances of, number 1, staying healthy, and number 2, getting as healthy, and number 3, having mentally get as healthy as I can, and also provide relational health for those I love and care about, and create the environment that's healthy for me at this particular time, David.
Great. Our final trivia question is around the area of habits of healthy surroundings, which includes the people that you spend the most time with. And so I want you to take a moment and be prepared here. We're going to have you write down a question of, or an answer to this question, and we want you to be primed and ready to go. So if you've multitasked, come back to your screen and go ahead and enter in the chat message or the comments. How many close friends and family members, or how many family members and friends do you have who are in optimal health or who are pursuing it? So, Dr. A, would you talk a little bit more about the difference between a person that thinks that they're healthy and being non-sick versus the idea of pursuing optimal health and well-being?
Yeah. So, there's this idea of prevention, which is okay, but really we realize this. In order for us to be optimal in the current world we live in, we have to take a proactive role in our health and our life. So, I talk about three basic categories. Optimally healthy, most of us are born that way. Non-sick, which means, we're not sick, but we're not at our healthiest, and sick is when we're sick. So, for instance, if you're 50 pounds overweight, but you're not suffering yet from hypertension or diabetes, but you're tired most of the time and you're not as active as you want to be, you're in the non-sick category. And unfortunately, the medical delivery system waits until we're sick, where we have symptoms to the point where we have a disease that we can be diagnosed by the codes, and then they give you medications for it. And that just doesn't work anymore. We're 5% of the world's population, and we consume 50% of the pharmaceuticals in the world. If you're on a statin drug, you're more likely to be overweight or obese and eat poor and exercise less. So I've taken a very different state. I spent my first 20 years as a critical care physician using medications and technology to kind of stem back and react to disease progress, but I never got anybody healthy. Now what we do is we want to awaken you to the active role that you are in charge of your health and your life, and you are in charge, even in a crisis like this, to take responsibility and bring the locus of control back in, so you're in control of your health, what you're eating. So, I was at the grocery store the other day, and this guy was getting 4 complete grocery carts full of tater tots. They're inexpensive, I get that, but that's the worst possible thing you could be eating at a time like this. And bottom line is, what you want to be at a time like this are fresh fruits and vegetables that increase your immunity, have lots of fiber to protect you. Get out and move around wherever you can all day long. You want to make sure you're sleeping better, so minimize your worrying. Get off the TV, stop watching it. Do it once a day. You can go to to inform your family, you can go to the World Health Organization or the CDC or Hopkins. They all have amazing sites that tell you the facts versus the sensationalism. Don't get caught up in that, because it'll just create an environment where you're not controlling your environment. So important not to do that. And then the other part is, use this time to build relationships with your family. My girls are here and have some great friends with them, and it's a time for us to spend time together. And, during this period, use that time to strengthen our family bonds and spend time with, people that are most important to us. So this is a great time to say, you know what, now I'm going to adopt the habits of health. I'm going to start my life book. And if you don't have it, you talk to your coach about getting it. And basically start on a path where we're going to focus on creating optimal health and well-being. See, we can surround you with all those things: your coach, the social community, the fuelings, the life book, the book itself, the whole system, online support, and do all these things you see. You have full access from the safety of your home right now. That's what's so cool about it, David.
Yeah, and we have this great ebook available on your website, and if those of you that do not have it already, please go to habitsofhealth.com and click on System Resources, and actually the ebook and other resources are available on there, as well as a whole bunch of great downloads. But maybe kind of wrap things up for us, Dr. A, and just talk about, there's people that are watching this video on social media, or they're watching it because somebody emailed it to them. Talk a little bit more about how an individual can actually get healthier in this challenging season, with the resources, with the Habits of Health system, and the commercial application of what's available to them.
Yeah. And, there's general things I know you all know how to do, and that's great. The Habits of Health transformational system, it's not anything in there like I wrote, this special, that there's tree bark from lower Amazon that you can eat, or, excuse me, or, from the bluegrass. Hey, can someone grab me some water, please? Thanks. What it's about is about giving you a system that can help you. You need a system, you need support, you need all the key things. Can I have it like now? I don't need ice in it, just some water. Sorry about that.
That's okay. So I did want to correct it. It is underneath the shop tab on the habitsofhealth.com website. So if you go to the system resources, there's plenty of resources like the preview to Dr. A's life book. There's 2 different elements of the life book. There's 26 total elements, but there's also all kinds of great Habits of Health videos and resources on exercising, and lots of great tools to help you to accelerate your journey. So Dr. A, I'll throw it back to you.
Yeah, I'm back. Sorry about that. I got a piece of my brownie caught. So here's the thing. Like I said, I want everybody to focus on how you can improve your health. I think it's important for you because it'll make all the difference. Using our system, we've made it easy, but you can, like David said, you can go right now, get to habitshealth.com. It doesn't cost you a cent. The ebook is free. You can go on and get the app. Listen, we want you to get healthy. That's the first thing. Second thing is I'd love you to start using Stop, Challenge, and Choose. And if you have a coach or someone that you know that is a coach, talk to them if you're not sure how that works. Because right now, there's nothing more important for you as you're listening is to take responsibility for your health and your life. Right now, most people are in the drama triangle. They're very fearful, and they're sitting there thinking, well, and all the negative possibilities. We don't know what the future holds, and we don't know what beyond right now holds, but I can tell you 4 factual things. Stay home, physically distance each other, because that's important. Keep the vector down, and that more than anything helps so we don't overcome our medical delivery system, and so we can provide for those that do become sick. Most of you aren't going to become sick. 7 of 8 people in China did not get sick. They had minimal symptoms. So most people aren't going to get sick. And that's why it travels so fast, because it's a stealth virus. Third is wash your hands, do all the things that, the government is coming out with the 15 days. Those are all simple things you can do. But beyond that, what I would say is eat healthy. Go get fresh vegetables and fruits. See, most people aren't doing that. They're getting the meats, and they're getting all the things, the fatty foods and the fried food. Go get healthy foods, and those usually are available. I was there just the other day. Next, get moving. Move around. Get outside. If you can get into areas where you can go for walks, obviously keep 6 feet from strangers, but get out and walk. Third is focus on spending an hour before you go to sleep and create that twilight hour where you're just relaxing, take a hot bath, make sure your room is cool, darken it, keep it quiet. And when you go in there, make sure you don't have any device that's going to connect you to the outside world so you can sleep well. Get up in the morning and decide, what can I do today? Remember to maximize do the things that are necessary for your health right now. Get an exercise program going and basically work on Stop, Challenge, and Choose. And when you feel an emotion, try to sense what that emotion is and then feel it through. And it takes about 90 seconds for us to feel that emotion. So if you're feeling a little fearful, feel it, let it go through and say, okay, now what can I do right now that helps prevent myself and my family from contracting this virus? What can I do that helps us be healthier today? And how do I build even the relational health within my family and my friends by getting on the phone, call up people you love, support, especially if you've got older people that are, right now isolated because of this, because they are at higher risk. Call them up, love on them. Let's work together.
Great. Well, if you've enjoyed this presentation and these questions helped you, please leave a comment and let us know that it's been beneficial. If you have further questions, please answer or ask those questions in the chat section or in the comments, and we'll try to do another one of these soon. So thank you again, Dr. A, for your time, and thanks everybody for participating. Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks.